morning. My name is Przemek Dybowski. I'm a solutions architect at CyberArk. I wanted to talk about boosting security for developers with our identity security platform. Have you heard about CyberArk before at all? Or your users? No? Okay, so let's go and talk about why we're here, maybe. I think it's a good way to start from saying that in general, in majority of tech companies, 80 to 100 developers will typically have like less than one security person working with them or for them. So that is causing a problem related to the creation of identities and protection that just not keeping up with each other. And the risk that is related to creation of identities is massive. And we see that, obviously we are here with AWS, so we have to talk about artificial intelligence. So we see that AI, software development, creation of new projects generally is creating a major challenge. Also the auto-scaling, which is a blessing of the cloud, is creating a challenge because all the workloads that are being created and spun up in seconds are just causing problems. We know that we must secure identities at the same speed as we create them, and that is a challenge. It is a challenge because the attackers know it. They know that there is a big discrepancy between the identity protection, identity creation, and the risk related to this is massive. So we have to deal with that, and we have to understand what the typical attack chain is. And now, on that very busy slide, we say that it's a modern attack flow, but it really is not. It's a very old method of starting where the entry level is very low. And typically speaking, we see that the attackers would like to compromise a workforce user, ideally with a targeted attack. They would like to get on the laptop and they would like to start stealing credentials. It is boring, it's always been the same, but we see that the same technique is being utilized regardless if we're talking about the 20 years old infrastructure, or we're talking about the very modern infrastructure that developer is utilizing super modern methods of delivering the value. So credential theft, lateral movement, privilege escalations are happening inside the laptop of a user until the attacker is able to pivot and start doing things that are a little bit more impactful. But still, there's going to be a credential theft, privilege escalation, lateral movement. And here we are being slightly naughty, providing example of Azure Global Administrator, but compromising access key of AWS accounts that have the administrator access attached to it is a very common attack vector. So common that it's almost disappointing to read some of the stories of how easily these things are being compromised. So very often starting from the user, pivoting into the infrastructure the attackers are going to be using for credentials. They're going to be looking for them in the code that is updated, committed to various repositories, and ultimately what they want to achieve is they want to take over the environment, and identity-related takeovers are typically very difficult to detect and very difficult to mitigate. And then ultimately cause an outage or steal the data, because that's what the attackers care about. They either want to disrupt the business or they want to steal the secrets from the business, whichever these secrets are. So now, we at CyberArk, we have built over years our identity security platform. Knowing this, knowing various versions of that, we know that we have to focus on the whole spectrum of identities that is spanning from the standard workforce to the almost classical privilege access management for IT administrators. But we also know that we have to focus on developers, because these days are very important for the companies. And also we have to focus on machines. And It is a bit funny because in my daily life I don't deal with operational technology and the real physical big machines that I see so many around here. But today on that presentation, all of a sudden the term machine gets a new meaning. And that meaning is obvious. Like colleagues from Dell, colleagues from Siemens, colleagues from Syntax are talking about the relevance in in operational technology, but everywhere in these machines there is a code that is running and is subject to attacks described by this attack chain pattern just a moment ago. So all these various users are going to be accessing endpoints, web sessions, they're going to be accessing infrastructure, be that on-premise or running in the cloud, or they're going to be accessing the cloud services themselves. And we see so many examples of this in this hall. We would like to be able, with our identity security platform, apply a right level of privilege controls to all these objects. Because we know that we need to give our customers ability to drive risk reduction, enable business transformation and the business resilience, very often satisfy audit and compliance that is in place just to reduce the risk, because I personally rebel against looking at the audit and compliance as something that is an art in itself. It is not. Compliance and like audit and compliance and regulations are there to make us more safe and more secure. So I wouldn't distinguish these things. And obviously we have to do it in a way that we increase efficiency and automation, or at least we don't impact it while we secure it. Which takes us to the focus of this presentation, the developers. So I said at the very beginning that typically speaking a tech company would have to have 80 to 100, sometimes more people that you would consider developers to one security person. And the budgets typically, with inclusion of new products and new services, are typically, the security budgets are not growing and security headcounts are not increasing. Now these people, Eva is an example of a developer, but she might be a site reliability engineer, she might be a platform engineer, she might be a person that is to some extent involved in securing DevOps pipelines or building them. She doesn't have to be just a developer that just writes simple code. Now, what are her tools? She interacts with browsers, she interacts with cloud services. That's again, a better way of putting this is not cloud consoles, it's cloud services. She would interact through them with cloud CLI. And now, the most important thing is that she really wants to be efficient in what she's doing. She's typically well paid. She typically can find a job somewhere else. She does not want the company to impact her productivity and her user experience by introducing security means. Now, can she get annoyed with these tools? Yes, we have seen that very often. I am representing security industry. We've seen annoyed users so many times in the past, and we've learned a lot. So we know how to make sure that they are going to be happy. But we need to make sure that we are securing them. We need to make sure that we are reducing the risk. And what are the small steps that we can take to secure our developers? First of all, we have to maintain the native user experience. Our colleagues at AWS, for example, are working very hard to make sure that the interaction with the tools is just pleasant, is simple. Security tools introduced into the mix, they cannot mess it up for the users. They have to continue being able to innovate and interact with the systems that they are working on without being impacted by troublesome processes. So we have to offer, and we do offer, the best-in-class user experience that does not impact the productivity of developers, cloud users, and IT administrators. Another step, you need to bring the right controls to the right people. People are very reluctant to accept heavy-handed approach to security. that will again impact the stuff. You have to make sure to be able to distinguish daily access from the unplanned access, from emergency access to situations where somebody has to go in and troubleshoot a complicated system. And one of the approaches that we would like to offer to the market, and then we're finding it very easily accepted by the user, is an approach of zero standing privileges, where privileges are being assigned to the users exactly when they need it in an easy way, and the users are able to understand when there's a little bit of a more difficult access to things, it is because there's a reason for this. So zero standing privileges is a concept that we are positioning. We would like to be able to talk to you about it in details on the booth 13, where we are in AWS Village. That's the second step. Now the third step is just to be able to make the changes as granular as possible, because if you are able to control the time entitlement and approvals level for your access, you are in good position to create a situation where users are going to be accessing systems that are important, but maybe not that critical in an easy way. Every morning they will get access for the 10, 12 hours that they would like to spend interacting with the system. They are not going to be asking colleagues for approvals, and they are going to be just the right entitlements for them. But users are also going to be able to understand that if there is an outage of production system, they will have to ask for approval to get there, and they are going to be getting the right level of access into the production system for troubleshooting the problem for example, only 2 hours, because that's the maintenance window, and this is the time that was allocated by the process to them to deal with the problems. Now, okay, how to do it? And I apologize for the white slide, it's slightly bright. Be consistent. This is the drawing that is explaining our layers of our identity security platform as applicable to the human users. This presentation is intentionally disregarding machines, even though it might sound like a mistake in this room. So users typically will need to access various systems. These systems are going to be in the cloud. These systems are going to be on-premise, and the same person might require access to all these things at once, and they are all different technologies. Very often on the top, where in line with the theme of this event and theme of our presence within AWS booth, these are going to be cloud CLI and cloud services accessible through the consoles, where the zero standing privileges approach and brokering roles just in time is going to be first of all, the industry standard and the accepted norm. But second of all, it's going to be something that you're going to be able to efficiently use to give people access that they need. Again, developer goes in, gets EKS access in the development environment for 10 hours of a day, and they can continue working. But the moment they have to start troubleshooting some GitOps-driven things in the production environment, they have to gain privileges and gain roles in production environment in a controlled fashion. Now, they are also at the same time going to be dealing with RDP SSH database access to the infrastructure that is ephemeral by its nature, because it's auto-scaling in the cloud, it's being created and destroyed when it's needed, and at this point our platform can, in exactly the same consistent way, provide the users with access policies that will allow them just-in-time access to an EC2 user on a Linux box, and database role that is required to interact with the database and check the data in there. And then kind of referring to the foundational stuff that you might know CyberArk from, very often you're going to be also dealing with situations when there is a need of securing standing access. So access that will always exist because it comes with technology. The examples could be sys accounts on Oracle databases, enable account on Cisco equipment, root accounts or global administrator accounts in the cloud. And here, again, in a consistent fashion, we can offer access methods that will give users access with the use of credentials that are vaulted, rotated, but never exposed to the users. So identity security platform will give the users ability to request access when there's need to request, and then access everything in the audited and potentially also recorded fashion with artificial intelligence generated summaries. And that is regardless of what the targets we're talking about. If it's going to be the cloud or a data center, if this is going to be SaaS apps or databases on infrastructure. And that's all through CyberArk Identity Security Platform with the products that and services that are available in there. And this way, I'm sparing you listening to me for too long, and I would like to switch to any questions if you have them. And I know it's difficult to ask questions in such a noisy environment. So, thank you for your time. If you would like to ask questions and have a conversation or take a look at what CyberArk is doing, you can find us in the booth 13 here in the AWS Village. And thank you very much for your attention.